Hello, my lovely human, and welcome back to Women When Fueled. Today, we're diving into a topic that's been on my heart for a while: gratitude. But not the Pinterest perfect bullet journal kind of gratitude. This is the raw, messy, life-changing gratitude that shows up when everything else falls apart. The kind that doesn't come from having it all together, but from realizing you're still standing when it feels like everything else has crumbled. This episode is different. It's me in my pajamas, post skincare routine, sitting in bed because I wanted to show up as my real, unpolished self. No scripts, no filters, just an honest conversation about what gratitude really looks like when life doesn't go as planned. If you're in a season of unraveling, or if you just need to feel seen and heard, this one's for you. Of course, as always, before we dive in, a quick note. Women When Fueled is for entertainment and connection purposes only and is not meant to replace professional advice or your lived experience. Episodes may include light conversational cursing, which might not be suitable for little ears. Please do what you may with this information to advise your listening experience. Here we go. Okay, I've tried to record this episode about 5 times, and I keep re-recording it not because of my perfectionistic side or recovering perfectionistic side, although I do still very much so struggle with that, but because I don't feel like I really did this topic justice. And frankly, I fear that in the past recordings of this episode, I reverted to that perfectionistic state, reverted back to what I thought maybe people wanted to hear or what Coach Me would say or whatever. And while what I'll end up saying in this episode is what Coach Me would say, it's not what Coach Me would say trying to look like a more fancy version of the Coach Me. And I've gone as far as to decide to re-record this the night before publishing it. I've done my face routine, I've brushed my teeth, I'm in my jammies, literally sitting in bed as I record this because I really want to turn over a new leaf in my content creation. I want to do what feels most aligned, and I think that you deserve a really honest conversation about gratitude, one that's not so scripted. Like that's my prim and proper voice for those kinds of things, just for reference for future episodes. But I want to talk about gratitude, and not the Pinterest perfect version, because there are so many cute journals, one I have created as my gift to you, and so many more, but those are kind of just lists. Instead of just the list of the superficial things that you're grateful for, I want the raw, messy, life-changing kind of gratitude. I want that for you so badly. I want the kind of gratitude for you that's not born from having it all together, but frankly, the kind that I had to get from watching it all fall apart and realizing that I was still standing, stronger, clearer, and more me. And I want that for you without having to watch your life fall apart. And if your life has fell apart and that's the season in which you have stumbled upon this episode, then I'm here on the other side to tell you that grab for gratitude. Don't grab for guilt, for shame, for resentment, or blame. Please do yourself a solid and grab gratitude instead. And pre-mental breakdown, and quite a bit into my mental breakdown, frankly, I don't think anyone would have said I was an ungrateful person. I certainly wouldn't have said I was, because I really used to think I was grateful. I had the lists every morning. I had the morning routines. I sent the thank you notes. But when I peeled back the layers after crumbling, I realized that my so-called gratitude was kind of just a mask over underlying dissatisfaction. I realized that I was writing all the goals and I was, air quotes, surrendering, and I was I wasn't surrendering, let's be real, but I realized that my goals were actually rooted in lack, and that a lot of my achievements to date were kind of just checkpoints to avoid feeling like I wasn't enough. And everyone's just doing the best they can with what they have, my parents, my surroundings, everyone. And I want it to be very clear out the gate that any stories I share in this show, any stories I share in my content is never going to be from a place of look at what they did to me, but instead from a place of if I healed through this, I believe that you can heal through your stuff too. And I hope that all of the stories I share can be received from a place more like where I'm sending it from. So from a place of, hey, if I can do this, really truly, if I can, you most certainly can. There is nothing I can do that you can't. So when March 2024 came, I had all of these checkpoints, I had all these accomplishments, I had all these big goals. 2024 was rocking and rolling, and I was pretty sure I was going to make it all happen. And then I lost a client, and then I lost another client, and then I just slipped. I fell hard. And this career I had built, this carefully curated picture, even how I showed up physically, like I see pictures of myself now, like from now, I see pictures of myself back a year ago and just a little bit earlier. And I realized that, wow, I was still feeling really insecure in my body, but I had come so far after having 2 babies in 14 months. Like I grew 2 people back to back, and I lost all of this weight really quickly, which go me, but it wasn't enough for me. I was still waiting to lose another 10 pounds before I showed up for others or like really showed my body online. I was still ungrateful for what my body had done for me and for my family. And all of it was misaligned. I was chasing dreams, but a lot of them weren't mine anymore. They belonged to a version of me that frankly didn't know any better. She was a version of me that had come so far, abso-freaking-lutely, and I'm so grateful for all the healing she had done, but she still had to really reset the foundation. And that's what I did. Everything unraveled, and I was taken down to the floor, the base level, and it wasn't just one thing that slipped. It really truly was everything. It was cracks in my relationship. It was the exhaustion of motherhood. It was silent battles with my mental health and big diagnoses and even bigger medications that now kind of make me want to cry. But all of it crashed all at once. And instead of holding it together like I had for so long, like truly this was the last straw on the camel's back, and I fell apart. And really, in that season, it was my first act of real gratitude probably in my life, because it was a forced surrender, sure. But once I got through the first stages of grief, frankly, realizing what true surrender feels like on my timeline, it's wild. I realize I've never been surrendered before. And as I've mentioned, I realized that I had never felt truly embodied gratitude before. And so like I mentioned, I had processed all of these stages of grief that we know. And I had hit this turning point. So I had months of this season. And at this breaking time, I called it my knives down season. So I kind of pictured myself juggling all of these knives in the air. And if any one of them were to fall, I was going to be seriously hurt. Like if it fell, it would stab my hand. If it fell, it would stab me right through the head. Like I would just, things would be unwell. And if I stopped, I didn't know how to stop was the problem. It's like a shark always having to swim. If it stops swimming, it dies. And I was certain if I stopped swimming, I would die. And I was asked by my doctor at that point, my medical intuitive doctor, incredible human being, incredible professional, Dr. Aubrey Wallace. She was like, when can you schedule just a rest day? And I look back at this version of me now, and I look back at her asking this question to me, and I'm sad because I quite, not figuratively, literally could not figure out a time that would work to rest. And part of that is being an entrepreneur. Part of that, at that point, I was running the studio and trying to get my courses and my coaching offerings off the ground at the same time, because frankly, I had a necessity in mind that I needed to pay for this childcare that had recently quadrupled because we lost our former childcare, had to get into this other school. And I was really proud of these kids being in this school. And so we really put the cart, or I'll say my partner had only warning signs for me, but in hindsight, bless him. But at that point, I was terrified. I was trying to be someone for my partner. I was trying to be a different person for my mom. I was trying to be a different person for the studio, a different person for my coaching clients, a different person for my friends, instead of just being me. And sitting there on Zoom with my doctor and having her ask me, when can you rest? And me not having an iota of an idea of when that was even feasible. Wow. And I look at it now and I realize how far I've come. But in this knives down season, I really did process the stages of grief. I had months of anger, guilt, resentment, shame, blame, and I was mad at the world. I was mad at the universe, at source. I was mad at myself. I was mad at people I was mad at people because I perceived they wanted me to be someone that I couldn't be. And all of this anger, guilt, shame, and blame was percolating under the surface. But as that was happening, I started to do a couple of things, and those couple of things saved me. And as I wrote down my gratitude lists, I was like, well, this isn't freaking working. Everyone's saying, like, the gratitude list wasn't hitting the same way as it did, like, frankly, pre-kids, pre-pandemic. Like, in my early 20s, I was able to write these little lists and I was able to feel like, yippee-ki-yay, things are great. But me in this season needed more than that to feel it enough in order to make this practice worth it to me. So I started giving myself structure in my day because frankly, I was home with my kids all day. I didn't have to be anywhere. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to change my clothes. I didn't have to do squat because bless him, my partner loves me kind of regardless. Bless him, truly, like he's seen every form of me, and the fact that he still chooses us blows my mind. So I'm wildly grateful for him. But I started doing little things, and I realized through my mental health struggle that for so long, since I was a little girl, since before I can remember, I thought if I just work harder, if I just be better, if I just do more, then maybe one day being normal will be easier. Maybe one day being normal won't feel so hard because I'll just hit my stride. And this has nothing to do with what anyone told me, because I grew up very privileged. Sure, I have a lot of hurts and traumas that I've worked through healing, and I am still working through healing. But at the end of the day, I was very privileged. But I realized big capital SMART goals weren't really wrong, but they also weren't complete for the way that my brain works. I realized that my perfectionistic side to that point would set these really rigid goals and these really rigid ways to get there. And that had gotten me really far, but it was also exhausting. None of the goals I had achieved to that point were from a place of flow, were from a place of surrender or gratitude or any of it. None of those really enlightened things. None of my achievements were from that place. And so as I started to craft this structure for myself that worked with my brain instead of against it, I was reaching these goals naturally for the first time ever. And I would just start crying because, wow, I guess it didn't have to be that hard. And wow, I guess I was never grateful before, because if this is what gratitude feels like, crap, I've never felt it. And so all of that leads to this point where just before Thanksgiving of 2024, something really dramatically shifted. And it wasn't like some big epiphany with fireworks. It was really quiet and it was really simple. I would open the door to my kids' room in the morning and their faces still sleepy, and I would feel it. This warmth as they looked at me and snuggled their head into my chest for the morning. I'd feel this pulse of gratitude that wasn't tied to perfection. They weren't behaving perfectly. They had for surezies wet their pants. And I wasn't mothering perfectly. I never have, and I likely never will. I'll just keep doing what I can with what I have. But there it was. Love and gratitude, but it was unfiltered. It wasn't masked anymore. And I would just have these moments all the time, like November, or let's say October and November, I would just like spontaneously combust. I would be talking to a friend on the phone and just start crying. I would see a group of people smiling, waterworks. I would be driving my car and look around my neighborhood and just realize, wow, this is the longest I've ever lived in a place besides my childhood home, and just start crying again. I was constantly crying. And again, this wasn't the gratitude of checklists, of achievements, of 3 things in the morning and 3 things in the night. This was embodied gratitude, the kind that lives in your breath, in your bones, in your soul, the kind of gratitude that is you. Gratitude for the hard stuff too, for the heartbreaks that cracked me open, for the failures. Biggest failure season of mine being March of 2024, that taught me a wild amount of resilience, the healing that felt like breaking before I got to grow again. And like I mentioned in those first months of my Knives Down season, I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I just needed something. And so for myself, I started doing what is now the LB method. I was finally able to look at my dreams and my goals from a place of the fact that they were mine, not for a parent, for a partner, for a societal representation of me, but because I freaking wanted it. If money weren't the issue, if time weren't the issue, if all of these things weren't the issue, what would you do? How do you want to spend your time? And I want to have amazing conversations with powerful women. I want to learn everything I can from those around me, and I want to help as many women as I can in the process. And that's why we're here. This podcast is a testament to that. This podcast makes me cry too, because a year ago, me wouldn't have found the time to really do it in this way. To do it in a raw and real way, in a natural way that worked with me. And previous me would have probably not re-recorded it this time. Probably would have left the last rendering of this particular episode because it looked right. On paper, it was right. But in my heart, it was not. And so here I am at 10:43 on a Tuesday when I am set to publish this on Wednesday, re-recording because it wasn't me. So when I created the LB method, I wasn't initially offering tools for habit transformation. This method is my heart. I was offering the practices that saved me in a season that really sucked. And if these practices can save me when it sucks, I can only imagine how it can elevate your life. And I created the journal because I have to imagine I'm not the only person that needs support in really curating embodied gratitude, because there's a lot of crap flying around the world right now. My partner is very into reading the news, and I literally never watch the news. I never read the news. I get highlights from him because he's hypervigilant on it. And I get spark notes on a need to know basis. Like, does this directly impact our home right now? Or in the next week? If it doesn't, I don't want to know, because there is just so much crap. But if you're someone who needs to know for your life, for your head of household or whatever, like whatever reason you need to know the news, just that alone is enough to get really untethered from self. And between gratitude and the LB method, you can really reconnect with yourself in a way that I'm so thankful I gave myself the gift of doing. Because gratitude isn't about ignoring your struggles or the hard things in life, because those hard things aren't going away. It's about anchoring yourself so freaking deeply in what matters to you. And anchoring so deeply in your dreams that they become an extension of you. And I'm not even going to edit this. I've decided just now. I got distracted for a second looking at my ceiling fan. And I'm showing up as authentically as I can in this very moment. And Lex Butler has ADHD. And sometimes I see a ceiling fan and I get distracted. But anyways, the thing is, in the gratitude journal, there are affirmations. And I realized that previous me had affirmations and they got me really far. Again, I was able to do the whole fake it till you make it, believe it, be it thing for decades. I worked my butt off and I literally had a mental breakdown for it. So to say that I've tried affirmations and on the surface affirmations work, absolutely. I've been there, I've lived it. But I also learned in this most recent season, this most recent evolution of me, that affirmations are not about toxic positivity. They are about declaring truths that feel just out of reach until you grow into them. Affirmations like, I am worthy of joy even when I'm struggling, or I can hold both grief and gratitude at the same time. So the Gratitude Glow Journal has affirmations for not only every week as like primary affirmations, but then daily affirmations that are tied to the prompts that root you in gratitude for the day. So yes, you're going to write 3 things that you're grateful for, obviously, and you're going to write 3 good things that happened today. But the practice, the magic in this journal is that it asks you to collect memories. And it asks you to recall specific moments that inherently will allow your heart to revisit that moment of gratitude. And when you are able to tie that feeling to the affirmation, it becomes 10 times more powerful in your frequency. Because when you shift your frequency, when you turn it up a little, when you elevate the joy, your vibration will attract like vibration. It's a whole physics conversation that we can have another day. But for today, all you need to know is that the Gratitude Glow is not just a catchy name, although it is that with the sassy hair flip on my part, but it really is a glow about you that occurs. And personally, I've received these different compliments from even like my woo-woo ladies, like my Reiki ladies, people who know energy really well, that there's just something different right now about you. You're calmer. And frankly, when I listen back to the original Back to You content, which I am currently in the process of rebooting because it was from that frantic place originally when it was created, I hear the frequency of my voice that is different. I feel the resonance in my body that I must have been feeling then that is different. And it's all because I set systems that set me free. And I finally embodied gratitude for the first freaking time in my life, which is wild considering it took me 30 years to get there. And so here I am in 2025. My oldest just turned 4 yesterday. Tears. I'm so proud of her. But here I am. I'm a mom of 2. I have an incredible partner. I have huge dreams that no longer scare me because they're just rooted in gratitude instead of fear. I am so thankful for every hurt that I've healed and even the ones that I'm still unpacking because they've shaped me into the woman speaking to you right now. So if you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or even if you're drowning in not enough, pause. Look around and just find one freaking thing. The warmth of the coffee mug in your hand, the way the light hits the floor, the breath that proves that you're still alive. When you train yourself, when you embody it, when you shift your mindset, that can be gratitude. When you teach your brain how to shift its state, you can feel gratitude in the really simple things. And that was the original intention of writing 3 things that you were grateful for. But so much of society is so disconnected and untethered from themselves and therefore from their gratitude. So that's where it starts. So action steps are 1, download the Gratitude Glow Journal. It's my gift to you. It always will be my gift to you. It was crafted from my heart so that I could send it to yours because I believe that when women thrive, everyone thrives. And that's the whole freaking point of this podcast. When women are fueled, I think they're the answer to everything. And then when you're ready to transform not just your habits, but your whole way of being, I really, really encourage you to try the LB method. And then finally, a really easy one that you can just start right away before you even download the complimentary gratitude glow journal is to speak gratitude aloud to yourself, to someone you love, to the source you believe in, the universe, your God, whatever, and to others. And not from a place of like, oh, I love your shoes. Oh, I love your shoes. No, I love your shoes. No, your shoes. Like that scene in New Girl, if you know what I'm talking about, with Jessica Biel and Zooey Deschanel at the wedding. If you don't, just disregard this moment. But if you do, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm really excited, and we need to be closer friends. So please reach out to me on social media and tell me that you understood my reference in this very moment. Anyways, see something, say something. When you can thank someone from your heart, when you can genuinely compliment someone and feel that thank you in return, everyone gets to feel lighter. So see something, say something. Say thank you aloud as often as you can. So I guess the big gist of today is that gratitude isn't a destination. It isn't a task to tick off your list for the day, like be grateful, check in the morning. Like, it's everywhere. Gratitude, when cultivated, can be a personality trait. It can be the ground beneath your feet, steady even when life around you isn't. And speaking of which, I am so thankful you're here. I am so thankful to be here sharing this space with you. So in the spirit of seeing something, saying something, thank you so much for listening, for growing, and for showing up, even on the hard days. Thank you so much for holding space with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I hope it serves as a reminder that gratitude isn't about perfect lists or polished routines. It's about finding light in the cracks. It's about realizing that even in our messiest moments, there's something within you that's unbreakable. If you're navigating your own knives down season, know that you're not alone. And if you're feeling called to share your reflections, send me a message. I'd love to hear your story. Don't forget to subscribe, share this with someone who might need it, and leave a review if this touched your heart. Until next time, be gentle with yourself and keep reaching for gratitude even in the unraveling. You're doing such a great job. Bye, guys.